Years ago, I was cycle touring in Europe. This is pre-mobile phones, mobile internet. And literally same thing, just completely winging it every day, riding my bike, just literally a paper map to decide where I was going to go. This one evening, I ended up riding into this triage of storms, like these 3 storms that were all swirling around. And of course, I had no way to prepare because I didn't even know it was coming until I was suddenly riding towards this storm in one direction. I'm like, oh, that's not very good. I better go this way. And then suddenly I'm riding this way and there's another storm. I'm like, oh, that's not very good. I better go this way. And then I'm like riding in this direction and there's another storm. And suddenly I was like surrounded by these bloody thunderstorms and I couldn't do anything about it. It totally surprised me and I ended up having to ride, I don't know, like 15 kilometers. It was definitely about 45 minutes through this tall pine forest with lightning like absolutely everywhere. It was absolutely insane. I literally thought I was going to die. But I was on this long straight road and there was nowhere that I could go, nothing I could do. And of course these days, the first thing you do as soon as there's like some, rain coming around, you pull out your phone, you look at the radar and you see what's coming. Hey, good morning. Thanks for joining me. It's such a beautiful day. And have I ever got a story for you? Starts right here, which is kind of like the middle of nowhere. Look, quite literally. You go like a couple of 100 kilometers that way, either you get to a place called Karratha in 250 Ks, or you take a right-hand turn, you go 250 Ks that way to a place called Tom Price, which is the middle of nowhere. Or you go back down that road, like 300 kilometers, and you get to like Geraldton? Oh no, Carnarvon. And you're in the middle of nowhere. This is Australia! I got a cracking tale to tell today. So let's take a walk around the middle of nowhere. Overnight we were staying at a place called the Nanutarra Roadhouse. It wasn't exactly our first choice of destination when we were planning this trip around Australia. In fact, we weren't ever supposed to be here at all. But things kind of got a little bit crazy down south. We were sitting on the coast at a place called Denham, which is right on the coast at a place called Shark Bay. It's utterly beautiful. It's one of those places where it's, reefs and beautiful water and wildlife, and we had 4 days booked to be there. Unfortunately, on day 1 when we arrived, we found the news that there were not just 1, not 2, but potentially 3 tropical cyclones brewing off the northwest coast of Australia. One main one which has kind of come down from Indonesia, and then 2 other tropical lows that were forming up. Forecasters were super worried about them kind of starting to interact with each other and starting to like dance around one another. In the last 50 years, this hasn't happened. And then here, exactly where we were, this thing happened. It's called the Fujiwara effect. And essentially it's like these tropical cyclones, these tropical depressions dancing around each other. And where was the main cyclone forecast to come ashore? You got it, Denham. 2 days after we arrived, on the 3rd day of our stay. So, without having to think too much, we kind of decided that it might be a good idea to get the fuck out of Denham. And we jumped in the car and we drove 700 kilometers north, because what we figured was that with a tropical cyclone, one of the biggest risks, obviously the damage, like cyclones can bring a lot of wind and a lot of rain, strong wind can cause a lot of damage. But here, when the only thing that connects you to the next town is one single road, if that road gets washed away, you're in big shit. And so for us, considering like the whole rest of our trip is north, we thought, well, if we go back south to Perth, then the road gets cut, we could get literally cut off from the rest of our trip, which would not be a very good scenario. So we decided we had to go north. The problem with going north is that you got to go a very, very long way. So first we drove, a couple of 100 kilometers to get to Carnarvon, quickly stopped and grabbed some food because we didn't know where we were going to be staying for the night, and then chuffed another like 350 kilometers up here to Nanutarra. The beautiful thing though is that Denham's sunrise is beautiful. And what's incredible about this kind of isolation is the silence. There's just like nothing. Just the sound of crickets, you know, that distant sound of air, you know, just air moving. It's not even like wind. Birds, flies. It's kind of cool waking up this morning because, you know, when you arrive in the dark, you don't see at all what the landscape looks like. Literally all you can see in the darkness of the road is just the grass and the bushes along the edge. And of course it's been that way for an hour and a half or something like that. And when we kind of drove into the darkness, we drove into nighttime, the terrain was like super flat, very, very dry. Just solid, a bit like this sort of salt bushes and stuff like that, but flat, you know, flat. And now over there in the distance, there's actually like some hills forming up. There's another one over that way. And it's kind of beautiful when you've been driving for hundreds of kilometers, to suddenly wake up and get this lovely surprise of seeing terrain again, seeing elevation. It's amazing. This trip has had really some of everything in terms of changed plans. We've had these crazy border closures and openings that have been going on as part of COVID, which have been so unpredictable that we've literally, the first 6 months of our trip were just, I don't know, flying by the seat of our pants, just going wherever we wanted to go and wherever we could go with the borders being opened or closed. And then now with like cyclones interrupting plans, I mean, that's pretty freaking epic, right? We had to outrun a once in a generation cyclone. I really love that. I think it's a beautiful thing about travel, isn't it? It really gives you a different perspective on things and teaches you that even sometimes you've got amazing plans in place and you've got to shelve them because you ain't going to hang around for a cyclone. As much as that might be a unique experience, it's probably not one I want for my kids or for my caravan for that matter. You can imagine like the caravan just like flying off into the sky. Yeah, not a good idea. This is the Pilbara region of Australia now, in the kind of northwest corner. Basically one of the big mining areas. We create most of our industry by digging up this stuff, a whole lot of dirt. You can see the earth here has kind of got that reddish tinge to it. It's because it's very rich in iron ore. And up here in the Pilbara, some of the world's biggest mining companies basically mine iron ore and then ship it offshore, where it's processed and turned into iron, steel, and then we buy it back at double the price. What? Yep. But it's a part of this country I've never been to, even though I've heard about it all these years. Have you been here? Hey, drop me a comment below. If you've been to the Pilbara, let me know what your experience was here because this is my first time. I've only just arrived, so I'd love to know what it's like. So I just check in, make sure there's not a car coming. It'd be kind of unfortunate, wouldn't it? If you're in the middle of nowhere and got run down by the only car that comes past every hour. If there's something that I'm grateful for out of this whole experience of having to like, you know, throw away reservations and get away from some places that we really wanted to visit, it's just being grateful for technology. Imagine if you'd just been sitting isolated on a beach, fishing somewhere in the middle of nowhere here on the northwest coast of Australia, and a cyclone comes and lands on your head. Yeah, that's not a good situation. So, technology, man, so grateful for it. I guess the flip side of technology is that sometimes it does make us anxious and addicted, you know. So true, our phones are so addictive. Go figure, it's actually so addictive. I'm telling you something brilliantly new, aren't I? But the reality is just there, right? The mobile phone towers went down, so power went down in Denham and we were without power and without telephone and internet for like a day or a day and a half. And it's incredible how often, you know, you actually reach for your phone. I don't think you actually stop and really think about that often. But when suddenly your phone is just a brick and is useless to you, it's suddenly you feel like yourself reaching for it. So there is a flip side to technology, I suppose, but like, the benefits definitely outweigh the negatives. You just got to try and mitigate against those negatives. Anyway, got to be grateful for the positives and mitigate for the negatives with pretty much everything. That's life. Enjoy it. and enjoy your day, whatever you're getting up to. Thanks for joining me for a beautiful morning walk from the middle of nowhere. I'll see you next time. Have an awesome day.